Are you interested in growing mushrooms at home, but there's just so much information to learn that it feels kind of intimidating to get started? That's cool. We've all been there in the mycology community. Hi, my name is Bree. I grow gourmet and medicinal mushrooms at home, document the process, and share the tips and tricks that I've learned along the way to help you get started growing mushrooms too. Today's topic is going to be liquid culture. We're going to go over the basics of what this is, why you might want to use it, the pros and cons associated with it, and if you decide, how to get started making your own. All right, so let's start off. What is liquid culture? Well, basically it's this. What you're seeing is mycelium that is floating around in a nutrient-rich solution that has been sterilized inside of this jar with the intention of expanding mycelium out to give you more to work with. Working with liquid culture is kind of one step above working with spores because working with spores will get you mushrooms. However, spores are notorious for being contaminated. You'll have spores inside of a spore print, but you also have bacteria, yeast, other naturally occurring microorganisms that you don't necessarily want. All right, so with all of that in mind, why would a person choose to use LCs or liquid cultures? So basically it's convenient. It's super easy. So whenever you first get started growing mushrooms, what most people will do is they'll buy these little mycelium syringes on Etsy or some other online vendor where you buy this solution drawn into a syringe and it's just ready to go. So liquid culture sounds pretty cool, but I don't want to confuse anybody and make it sound like liquid culture is the be all end all when it comes to mushroom cultivations. Yes, there are pros, but there's also some cons that we need to address too. So let's go ahead and send it to a chart up here. So liquid culture is really quick to colonize. I like this because the faster it colonizes the grain, the better chance it has of fighting any contamination that it might come into contact with further down the line. If your mycelium grows faster than the contamination, then that is good for you. Also, it's cleaner than spores, okay? It's not impervious to contamination. Contamination is absolutely still possible. Now, if it were a thorough contamination, you would see it in the jar because if it looks contaminated, if it smells foul, like vinegar smell, those are really good indicators that it's contaminated. If you look into your jar and it looks very cloudy, that's another good indication that it's likely contaminated. But there are situations where you can have a jar that looks perfectly fine and it still have some contamination present inside of the jar. This is where agar plates really come into play. If you want to be absolutely sure that your liquid culture is good to go, we deploy the agar plate to test that sample and make sure that it's good to go. More on that in another video. But I mean, the pros of expansion, limitlessly being able to expand a small sample into gallons and gallons and gallons of liquid culture kind of supersedes all of the cons in my opinion. So there are several recipes that you can use for making liquid culture, and I'll throw them up on the screen here in order of how much I like the recipe. My favorite way to make liquid culture is with LME enriched with peptones. The peptones are honestly a little expensive and optional. So if you're trying to get through it economically, you can skip the peptones. It's not gonna really hurt your grow. And then on the flip side of that, LME is sometimes a little hard to get a hold of. So if you're just trying to go to your grocery store and get everything that you need to get started, Karo syrup is your backup plan. I've done several expansions with Karo syrup. I've had really good success with Karo syrup. There's nothing wrong with it. I personally just would rather work with a dry powder than a sticky syrup. It's a cleanup issue, but the recipe itself, spectacular. And then we also have honey as an option. A lot of people say that local honey is the best honey. But when I tried it, I just used the good old Walmart brand version, you know, the little bear. I tried it. I did not have good success with it personally, but I know a lot of other people who have had good success, so it's absolutely worth trying. All right, so that recipe panel that I had, each of those recipes makes exactly one jar, one of these half-pint jars. And one of these jars, once it's expanded out, would give you about 15 and a half 10 cc syringes, okay? Now, once you mix up the jar and you give it this little special lid that we can make a separate video on later, you want to sterilize it. There are two really easy ways to do it. First involves a pressure canner. So if you have one, you want to do 20 minutes at 15 psi. But if you don't have a pressure canner, it is perfectly acceptable to use an Instant Pot. I've tried it out several times. My contamination rate is not any different than if I had used a pressure canner, but you do want to double the time. So you want to do it on high pressure for 40 minutes. Give it just enough water to pressurize, keep its pressure, but you don't want to submerge the jars entirely. But once you've got them pressurized, sterilized, cool them off completely before giving them a sample to expand. And over the next week or two, it will take whatever you give it, expand it out. You'll have to aerate it, meaning just stir it around every day or every other day, and it'll take care of the rest. So that's all the need to know business critical high points about liquid culture. I hope you got something from this video, and maybe I've earned your subscription today. Thank you so much. Have a good one.